Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I'm so thrilled to finally have Tina Barr. Tina, you are a multi-hyphenate. You have an online store. You also are a coach to help people with their e-commerce and product-based businesses. You have a podcast. What don't you do?
I know, right? And you can add mom to that. That's probably my other job.
Yes, the most important one.
Right. So yeah, I can't stay in one lane. Everything just excites me. I love learning. And so one thing always kind of leads to the next, and that's how it goes.
Yeah. I'm the same way. So I'm totally here for that. I'm also a single mom, and not saying that you're a single mom, but being a mom is like the most important job. And
right.
So I feel like we do a lot of things, we juggle a lot of things so we can fit our money-making side and our creative side into our lives as parents.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How old are your children or your child?
Yeah. So I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. So luckily I'm out of the baby years, but entering in the preteen, a whole different scene. Yeah. So.
Well, I have a 16-year-old girl, and it has been an amazing experience.
Oh,
honestly,
good.
We've not had any issues, and it's so fun to see them get to that point where now they're thinking about who they are after school and outside of us, and where they want to go to university and what they want to do when they grow up and all that stuff. So this isn't typically what I lead with, but I think it's something that's really important and top of mind.
Totally.
You have been to school on both coasts, Santa Barbara and then Boston University. What led you to the East Coast into international relations and marketing, and then into working for other people's businesses, and then going into the entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah. Oh, wow. We're going all the way back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm originally from California. I grew up in the Bay Area. And so anybody from California knows it's really common to go to one of the UC schools for college. So I went to UC Santa Barbara. It was an amazing experience, great place to go to school. And then I had a summer where I visited a friend in Boston, and I just sort of fell in love with Boston. I thought it was really cool. It had a great energy. And the school I ended up going to for grad school, BU, had an amazing international relations program. So I went that path, and I thought I was going to, work for the UN or go work in international relations, international development. And what happened is I actually fell into global advertising. So I ended up working at a big ad agency in San Francisco, and I worked on the international team. So our job was to talk to all of our agency partners around the world for different clients and localize the advertising, share resources, best practices, things like that. And it was at that time that I realized I love marketing. I love advertising. Like, this is where I need to be. So I did that for many years, working at media companies, ad agencies, and a lot of it ended up being retail-based. So product-based companies, big CPG, or also on accounts for retailers like Target and Walmart and so on. And so that whole path to purchase became something that I really learned on a big scale. And around, being in the Bay Area, everything was tech. Like where I grew up and where I lived, that's where Meta, formerly Facebook, Google, eBay, PayPal, any of those companies that we think about being in the commerce space, they were like in my backyard. My friends worked at those companies. So when e-commerce kind of got on my radar and Shopify, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I could do that too, So I started my own little Shopify store. It was when my older son was born. So I sold baby stuff because, that's what I was into as a mom. And I really loved it. And then what happened is I did a pop-up event where I had a little table and I was selling my stuff. And I was talking to some of the other women at the tables near me and, comparing notes, showing each other's websites. And this one woman was like, I love your website. Who did it for you? And I was like, oh, I did it. And she's like, could you do mine? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Why not? So I had these little side hustles while I had my big corporate job. And then it just became my hobby, ended up being, through networking, helping other women with their stores. And I realized that that was really something I enjoyed and I had a lot of knowledge in. And eventually, like around the pandemic time, coming up to more recent days, my corporate job ended and I really had a decision to make. Like, do I go back into that world or do I try to do this freelance and like create my own thing? And my husband and I decided, okay, let's just give it a go. Let's see what you can do because, we were both home, homeschooling the kids, all of that stuff. I was like, this is way better for me. And so that's where I am now. So I teach people how to grow their own stores through marketing, how to set up the tech, and just kind of, it's coaching, but it's also mentoring because I've been there and I know it from the inside out. And that's really important.
It really is. I remember before the pandemic, maybe 2017-ish, 2018, I had a business in Houston because I lived a few places as well. I'm back in LA now. But in Houston, so I had a business helping nonprofits with events and partnering them with corporations. But then I transitioned that into having a social club to help people make connections in the community. But then we ended up having a retail space that was our clubhouse, but then it was a great incubator for small businesses. So we set up Shopify, but I really wish I'd had somebody to help me learn the ins and outs. And like, because I had somebody who's like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. Let me give you my old stock to start your store. But then everybody locally had already bought whatever they wanted from her stuff. And so I'm left with all this merch that I can't get rid of. And it's very typical stuff. And then I'm like trying to explore the world of like drop shipping, but that wasn't my forte. And I know that if I'd had a you in my corner, I would have absolutely been able to figure out how to make it work and be successful, monetize properly, right? And actually turn it into just this thing that was just there into an actual business.
Yeah, I think there's such a lack of resources available. Like it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because if you go on YouTube or you look for a podcast, there's tons of them. But if you want to talk to somebody and be like, what's right for my business?
Exactly.
Like I just had a call with somebody today, one of my clients who has a candle business and she's opening a brick and mortar. And she's like, I know how to sell my candles online. No problem. I've been doing that for years. I know how to sell at pop-ups. I know how to wholesale. She's like, I don't know what to do with this like in-person part. And I've never worked in, physical retail, but I've had enough clients that overlap that there's a lot of knowledge and things that I can impart. And she's like, oh, these are such great ideas. Yeah, this makes such perfect sense. And so having someone also that you can just bounce ideas off of, that you can get an objective opinion, because if you ask a family member or a best friend or, somebody like that, they always want to protect you and keep you safe. And so they will tell you, no, it's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Don't waste your money, when really like it's probably worth taking the risk as long as you understand what the implications are and you just need someone to walk you through that.
Yeah. I also know that in the very early days when people started selling online, I had a friend who was blogger in a previous life, and she decided to start selling stuff with a very, little investment. And now it's a multi-million-dollar company, online, brick and mortars, who was really able to take it because I think she got in at that early stage. And that's another question I have for you, because in the world of Shein and Temu on one hand, and the world of, Amazon, where during the pandemic, we all kind of got used to, we just go to Amazon to buy everything now. How does somebody stand out in this market with their product? And how do you help people realize, like, is there space in the market for what they're trying to do and the brand messaging and all of that as part of it, or the digital advertising, that whole landscape?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I would say the first thing you need is proof of concept. And the best way to get that is to put your stuff up on Etsy or some kind of marketplace. You could even put it on Facebook Marketplace or Poshmark, somewhere like that already has built-in traffic, and just see if you can get some sales organically. Post it to your Facebook page or Instagram. Start there. And then once you have kind of proof, okay, there's demand for this product, people are willing to buy it, and you know that it has potential, then I think it's really important to have a story. Like storytelling is really, really important. And to not try to be everything to everybody. Like you really need to lean into who your customer is. And in the beginning, that's hard because you don't really know yet. But once you start getting some traction, you'll see who your customer is. And there's all those worksheets, right? Like fill out your customer avatar. And I think what happens is people do that work, but then they don't internalize it or they don't know what to do with it. And so what you have to do with it is, okay, so what communities does this person hang out with or hang out in? And that could be Facebook pages, or what are their hobbies? Okay, like where do they go to buy those things? What's their identity? What words do they use? And you can mine your reviews for that. You can look at your customer's language. You can do customer interviews. But the more you understand about them and where they hang out, and so when they read your product page, they see your photographs, they see your reels, they look at it and they're like, oh my God, that's me. That's my people. I belong there. I want that. You know, I want that candle. I want that lipstick. I want that dress. But you have to really connect on that emotional level with your customers, because otherwise there's no story for them to say. They'll say, oh, I bought it on Amazon. Who cares? You know, but if they can say, oh, I bought it from the store and she has this boutique in LA and she's the designer and I saw her sketch it on Instagram, like all of a sudden there's this big personal connection, and then you can charge what you're worth as well. That's the other part.
I love that you're saying all of this. As very invested in brand, I teach digital media. So everything you're saying, I'm like, music to my ears. And I think it's something a lot of people don't necessarily think about, or they think of the customer as just a carbon copy of themselves, but that might not actually be the ideal avatar for your business.
Right, exactly. And then just going really deeper on the motivations of why somebody buys something. So are they buying it because a gift for themselves? Like a lot of the clients I work with sell sort of self-care category products, right? Like nobody really needs another journal or another hand cream or shower steamers or whatever it is. But their self-care is really important to them. And so how do you communicate that you're worth it, you deserve to get yourself these little luxuries? And that's where things like the packaging, the branding, the words that you use, all of that's really important to stand out in a crowded marketplace.
Yeah. Has there ever been somebody who came to you for coaching and either you had to say, oh, you're not really ready, or your product isn't going to resonate the way you think it is, and you either have chosen not to work with them or you've helped them pivot to something that will help them find success?
Yeah. So I have people come to me, you know, just kind of cold outreach a lot of times who are like, yeah, I hear I can make money with this drop shipping thing, or the new one is print on demand. Yeah, I'll make some t-shirts and sell some print on demand. And they'll be like, okay, but who's the customer? Like, what's your emotional attachment? What's the community that you're serving? What value are they bringing? And they just kind of look at me with a blank stare and they're like, no, I just want to like get rich quick. Like, I'll just throw a bunch of stuff up there. And I'm like, okay, I'm not the person for you. You can go find another course for that. Because for me, it's like, I know this is a long, slow road and it's very bumpy and frustrating. But if you really love your product and you're really passionate about your customer and making your customer's experience amazing, then we're likely a fit. So I only work with values-driven businesses. If it's that, you know, yeah, I want to sell things for cheap, or like they have some idea of like ridiculous markups that I'm like, you know, I'm not sure that's really an ethical way to sell, then I'm not interested in working with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So important. And I love meeting purpose-driven women who really pour that into their businesses and their business models. To that point, your store, welljourn.com, is a shop for global fair trade goods, which totally goes back to, it's like a throwback to your international business.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, it's sort of the intersection of all my interests. So I use it as like a sandbox playground. I can try out all the new features from Shopify. I always try out new apps and things before I ever give them to my clients. So I can say like, this worked. I tried it on my own store. I spent my own money on it. That's really important. Just make sure I'm a credible, authentic person. That's really part of my values. And then I love that I can help people in different countries support their dreams of being makers, support local communities by giving their products market here, because I discover these amazing things and I see other people selling them as well, but they're just not always great marketers. So it's a difficult place for them to find enough demand. And so I'm really good at generating the demand for those types of products.
Mm-hmm. Are there specific types of products that resonate best in your marketplace, or does it depend on country to country, like what their specialties are?
Yeah, so I mostly buy from Fair Trade Federation members. So a lot of them have teams who handle all the importing and warehousing and things like that. Because when you're buying from Nepal and Kenya and India, each country has so many different rules for importing. So I'm really lucky to have great partners for that part of it. And then for me, what I found is, like the deep inside of my customers is that they're collectors. They love collecting things. So I have people who collect everything that I come out with that's elephant, right? Or safari animals. And then I have other people who just love Christmas and they'll collect all the Christmas ornaments. So once I tapped into the consumer insight of my audience, it became really easy to market, really easy to make decisions about what inventory to bring in next.
Yeah, nice. And then that's also great for your customer journey because you can go back to that person and say, hey, we have a new elephant in stock, or we have a new this.
Yeah, exactly. And then I can do the storytelling that I love to do from so many different angles. Like, here's who made it. Here's the country it came from. Here's the symbolism from that place. Or also, here's the materials. This one's made from wood. This one's made from this natural tagua nut. Like there's so many different ways to market the store, and it makes it fun and interesting for me as well.
100%. I'd love to talk about your podcast, because we were talking a little bit about how you have a different model for it. I know that we're linking it in the show notes for people to be able to listen to, but can you talk about what it is? And, I know it's a private feed, so it's a little bit of a different model than, for instance, my podcast.
Right. So I heard a podcast from another coach, and she had used this private model, and I just loved everything about it because it really flipped the script on podcasting. And I know how much work and hard it is to put on a podcast. So props to you. And like we said, I have a lot of other projects going. So I wanted something kind of simple and straightforward. So what I came up with is I have this amazing network of clients, other experts that I tap into, just people that I've met along the way who have something to share. And so I really wanted to have conversations with them. And I decided to have conversations on mindset, because I think that's one of the areas of e-commerce that is really not talked about enough. So like, what's the mindset of the artist in e-commerce? Or I interview a Shopify designer. I interview a friend of mine who's actually she calls herself a happiness coach. And so I just asked them, what are your best advices, experiences around mindset for the e-commerce store owner? And then I left them a Voxer message with their question that was personalized to them. And then they responded, and then I would respond back. And so we did sort of this little ping pong. We didn't have to be on at the same time. Yep. So it was very freeing for them, like didn't have to worry about calendars or time zones. And then I felt like I can share the wisdom and depth of knowledge of these group of people, and I can learn from them and other people can learn from them too. And just the way the format is with the Voxer and the back and forth, it felt a little weird for a public podcast. It needed some explanation. So that's why I decided to make it private. And then I just have like email opt-in at the front end because I'm a marketer. Yeah, I try to find ways to get emails. So I was like, I'll just be upfront about it. If you want to listen, you have to sign up for the email. And I don't email a lot. So But, that's the model. And I think it's going to be a little capsule, maybe, 10, 15 episodes in total. I'm still working through the next batch. And then I'll decide what I do with it from here.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So anybody who has the private feed can listen, or is it usually for people who are working with you?
Yeah, anybody can listen. It's open to sign up for it. And the other thing that I think is helpful is sometimes I send it to people who reach out to me or aren't sure about working together. And I can say, look, if you listen to 1 or 2 episodes, you'll get a sense of my style, how I speak, what I think about things. And if that resonates, then we're a good fit. If not, then done. But it's kind of like, if helps me manage my schedule so I don't have to be on so many discovery calls.
True. I love that as a marketing tool. That's such a brilliant strategy.
Yeah. And because I think, personally, like once I dive more into this coach space and look at how coaches present themselves, I was just like, I don't want another PDF download. Like, I know everybody's like resources are amazing, but I never open them. They download on my phone and then I can't find it. Like, I don't remember why I opted into this. But like a podcast that just drops into my player. So when I'm in the walk in the evening, I can listen to my podcast. Like that makes sense and feels very valuable to me.
100%.
So yeah, it's not just about me. It's also very much about meeting the needs of my clients.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of your clients, I'd love to talk about what you offer in coaching so that anybody who's listening who's thinking about launching a product will understand, what your process is.
Sure. So I work with I'd say 2 stages of business owners. So a lot of people start with me. They have an idea for a store or they've been making a product, kind of selling it in person, and now they're ready to get online. They open their Shopify account and then they're like, oh, geez, this is a lot. Like, I don't want to learn this. So I'll help them either by creating their Shopify store or going in and just teaching them how to update it, like get it where it needs to be so we can start selling. And then the second part is moving into more of the coaching and guiding. It's like, okay, now we have proof of concept. What are we going to do for marketing? What's your email marketing plan? What's your social media? Are you going to do paid ads? And then lately I've had a couple of clients, which is a really kind of fun new category, who have really successful businesses selling in person, like at pop-ups, or they do the festival series all summer. And they're just like, I need to have a backup, like I need to have a better online presence. And so they're great because they already have an email list. They already know what their best sellers are. Like they have a lot of resources in place. We just need to take that momentum. And I kind of think of it as their website all of a sudden becomes another booth that they don't have to man on the weekend.
Yes.
So it's like giving them more of a virtual presence in addition to their in-person. And those clients are really fun because they're further along in their journey. And so we can jump into some more advanced strategies. And I'm really enjoying that.
Nice. You mentioned paid advertising. What are some of the things that you're seeing right now that are working really well for online stores versus, marginal?
Yeah. So for paid advertising, I would say if you're getting a decent amount of traffic and you have steady sales, you have a base of customers, really lean into Google ads. Like the Google PMAX take a little while to get going. They can be a little tricky to set up. So you might need to hire someone to help you with that. But once they're running, they are really working. So I would say Google PMAX is really important. And then for social, don't try to be everywhere. It's just too overwhelming. Like pick your primary platform, create for that one because you enjoy it, because it's fun. So if you love making reels, make reels. And don't worry about all the rules. Just repurpose them wherever you can repurpose them. So I recommend repurposing your Instagram content on Pinterest. It actually kind of seems strange, but it works really well over there. You could repurpose it on TikTok, when you post on Instagram, you can also directly share to Facebook. So why not do that? Just kind of make it easy on yourself and remember that you're a business owner, not a full-time content creator. Yeah. Some people like spend too little time on the business and too much time in content creation. So kind of having a balance there. And then in terms of, paid advertising, I would say Facebook and Instagram and Google are still the places to be. But you really have to be okay with experimenting, learning, and figuring it out because it's not intuitive at all, unfortunately.
What is your, favorite part about having these different creative outlets, coaching, podcasting, having your own store?
Yeah, my favorite part, I just love everybody's creativity, right? I love working with so many makers and designers and artists. And I just really admire their skill and creativity. And I'm happy to be kind of like their business support because a lot of times that's their weakness. And so together we make a really great team in that part of it.
Nice. So what does your day-to-day look like when you're, you have all these things going on in your family that you also, obviously you have to have time and intentionality.
Yep. So I try to do a lot of time blocking. So I'll do calls 2 days a week. Then I have Thursdays are my open day for one specific client. And then I try to leave my mornings open to actually execute on my work and do things. So I have things blocked out usually in 3 or 4 hour chunks because I find that's enough to be able to manage it. But yeah, it all just kind of flows. Some weeks are a little crazier than others, and then especially I'd say in the fall when everybody realizes, oh, Black Friday holiday is coming, that's when a little bit of the panic sets in. So I have to manage my time closely there. But summer is a little more chill, so that's good.
Sounds nice. It's funny because my daughter's really enjoying her summer, but I am definitely trying to put a lot of things into place right now.
Yeah.
So, wait, this doesn't really feel like summer.
Yeah. Luckily, my kids are at camp, so the house is quiet.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah. Yeah. So things like this, calls, I try to do in the morning when I know the kids are out. And then when they come home, I have a block of time where we can go to the park or hang out or, do whatever. So.
Yeah. Oh, that intentionality. I love it. Is there any piece of advice that we haven't talked about yet that you would want to really convey to somebody who is maybe they've started, but they don't really know where they're going next, or they are thinking about starting an online business?
Yeah, I would say one, it's going to take a lot longer and it'll be a lot more expensive than you think in the beginning. There's just so many myths out there, like I said, about the get rich quick or just make something, put it up there and people will buy it. You have to create demand for your product, and marketing is really your main job and you need to experiment a lot. So I think just understanding what you're getting yourself into. And what I find over and over again, the people that I work with is once you start, if it's in your bones and you just love it, you will power through no matter how hard it is because those good days are so worth it, right? It's just so exciting when you get that amazing review or when someone sends you an unboxing video or when someone places their 7th order with you and you're like, okay, this is why I do this. It really can work. But the early years are a tough slog. So just be prepared for that.
And what would you say is your next part of your journey, either with your existing businesses or something new that you want to bring out to the world?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, that's something I'm trying to figure out myself. This summer, I've really dedicated some time to learning. So I've taken different courses. I took a course to be a better coach, actually. I took life coaching type courses, not because I want to be a life coach, but just so I can apply those principles. And then now I'm taking a market research course because that's something I'm really passionate about. And maybe next I'm thinking I might have more self-study options. Maybe I'll create some content that people could do or maybe create a small YouTube channel. I'm not sure. I'm still dabbling and kind of figuring it out. Yeah.
that's part of the fun, figuring out how you can continue being creative and sharing this information that you're really passionate about.
Yeah, exactly. And right now I'm just really enjoying being on podcasts. Yeah, it's really fun.
You talked a little about mindset, well, a lot about mindset, and that's what your podcast is about. And you see that as something that people really have to overcome. So are there techniques that you'd share for people to overcome? Because I know it doesn't matter how much experience you have when you start something new. I have the same feelings. Like, I've been in the business world for decades, but every time I try something new, there a little bit of imposter syndrome sneaks in, or are people really going to be interested in this thing that I am a subject matter expert on, but, positioning myself and all of those things that come up to us.
Yeah, totally. I think it's so easy to go into that spiral of, oh, this failed, I did it wrong, I don't know what I'm talking about. When if you instead see everything as, okay, I'm just doing an experiment and we're going to see if it works or if it doesn't work. If it works, then excellent. If it doesn't work, what can we learn from that? And what will my next experiment be? So once I personally changed my mindset around that and just started to see everything as an experiment, which was really separate from me as a person or a business person, and my self-value wasn't tied up in it, it became a lot easier. So I think there's a lot of that. And then also the other thing I think is really important is the people that you surround yourself with. I think everybody needs either a business bestie or somebody else who's in the same industry as you. It doesn't have to be a coach. It could just be, someone you meet at a show, or it could be somebody you meet in a Facebook group where you can just say, hey, I'm having a down day, or I'm really frustrated with this. And instead of them saying, yeah, well, you don't know what you're doing, or you're wasting your money, or why don't you just get a real job, or, things that you're going to hear from people who aren't in it and don't understand that this is really who you are and that you really want to solve this problem, but you just need some help. Surrounding yourself with those people and knowing how to go to them when you need a little boost of confidence is really important.
Yeah. Oh, such great advice. Thank you for sharing. So we're going to have people go to your website, and from there they can find everything else.
Yep, they can find everything. Yep, awesome. Exactly. So you can listen to the private podcast. You can reach out to me if you're an e-commerce store owner and you want to have an intro call. I'd be happy to chat with you and see if we could be a fit. Or if you just want some resources, I've started writing a few blog posts. I post things on social when I have the kind of inspiration strikes. So yeah, but I love meeting e-commerce store owners and connecting. So that's really fun for me.
Awesome. Fantastic. And Tina, I always ask, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, family motto, verse, words that you live by and inspire you?
So I recently found one. I don't know what the exact quote is, but he's someone I started following on social media as part of my digging into coaching. And his name is George Cow. And he says, marketing is making friends at scale. And I just thought that was so cool, right? If we flip it as marketing is putting messages out there, little signals of kind of love and I want to be your friend, instead of I want to sell you something, buy my stuff. And it was just such a lovely way to say it. And that's really stuck with me lately.
Yeah, that is, I think, especially as people are wanting to see more authenticity, right? Transparency. They want to see who the person is behind whatever they might be buying. I really feel like that personalization and that trust is more important than ever. And that quote just perfectly sums that up.
Right? Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. And it just makes sense, because who doesn't want to have a bunch of friends? We can all have friends that are in our close circle, but then also just acquaintances who have something in common with us. And so of course they become our customer because they're part of our community in some way. So
that's lovely. This has been such an enjoyable conversation. So I just really thank you for coming on the show, bringing your time and your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your questions.
Thank you. It's very cool. Organic. which is more fun for me too.
Yes.
And we're going to lead everybody to tinabarr.com to get all of your resources, get the link to your private podcast. I'm going to put that link onto my favorite podcast listening platforms. And thank you to the audience for watching or listening to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a follow, review, and rating if you haven't yet. And make sure to go to tinabarr.com and download the private podcast that Tina has offered to all of us. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.